this is Arlene White Swan. Welcome to the Mysterious Domain. Since it's high summer and exceedingly hot, I thought it would be a good time to talk about the suit of wands or spears, as it is in the Tuatha de Danaan Tarot. And the reason that the Tuatha de Danaan has spears instead of wands, which they're basically the same thing, really, but it's because of the Spear of Lugh and also the Spear of Longinus. Lugh's spear is buried under the Lee of Fowl, the stone of destiny on which the Irish kings are crowned, on the hill of Tara, in the city of Phineas, which is the southern quadrant of the four cities of the Tuatha de Danaan. And it is a place of teaching and wisdom, and it is a very bright and shiny place, full of beautiful shining trees. In fact, you know my hermit card, he's standing between the green and burning trees, and when you face that card and you see him standing there, right behind him is the city of Phineas on the hill, the shining hills. And Lugh was the high king of the Tuatha de Danaan, and this was his spear. And I have it now in the hand of Uther Pendragon, who is a descendant of Cain, and therefore a son of the serpent, and not a very good person. The thing with Arthur's family, King Arthur, his father is a dragon. He is Uther Pendragon. Call him a reptile, I guess. And his mother is esoterically known to be descended from Atlantean black magicians. And Merlin, who's a druid, engineered through magic that Igraine would mistake Uther Pendragon for her husband and sleep with him, and therefore they conceived Arthur. Meanwhile, Uther, of course, had her husband killed out there in the hunting party, so he gets to keep her because he really was into Igraine. And in my card deck here, you see her sitting in front of the lake of fire with maidens from the Castle of Maidens holding the holy spears, which are mirrors of the Spear of Lugh. And as Uther Pendragon here has the Spear of Lugh in his hand, and he's making the sign of his father's 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 father. And also, I want to point out that Igraine's cloak is embroidered with the life story of King Arthur. So how he pulled the sword from the stone and he would be crowned king. And, as Merlin had planned when he brought Igraine and Uther together to conceive Arthur. And then, of course, the knights are all catalysts as far as I'm concerned. They're the motive energy and the cardinal energy. And Merlin is riding one of the horses of Anun, or Orion's horses, and the birds of Rhiannon are flying in the air, and on his neck is a scarf that bears the red and white dragons, which are his emblems, because part of his story, his initial story, is that he was a young boy, and there was a king called Vortigern, and he was trying to build a tower, and the tower wouldn't stand. It kept sinking into the earth. And their way of dealing with that in those old days was they would throw some innocent under the foundations as a human sacrifice so the building would stand. And he was going to throw Merlin in there, and Merlin instead had a vision of what the problem was. He said, well, there's a red and white dragon warring at the end of the earth in this very spot, which is why the tower won't stand. And he also helped to tame these dragons, and so Vortigern elevated him to, kind of like, suppose arch-druidship or something, Merlin became famous as a sage and a seer after that. So then, you know, of course, then he made his way into the lives of the royalty of Wales and Cornwall. Of course, Tintagel's in Cornwall, and this is how he becomes the Knight of Spears. And I'd like to say this first figure, the Maiden of Spears, was the first being that entered my house after the Grail rose up from out of the underworld and rose above my table, and then I saw the light, and then these holographic light beings proceeded into my house, and the first one was the Maiden of Spears, and the spear is fiery and dripping blood. And blood and bloodlines is a big part of the spear's suit, because not only is the spear a weapon that was wielded by Lulu to protect his kingdom of the Tuatha de Danaan, but it was also the spear that was in Christ's side and then had Christ's blood on it. So there's a lot of blood ritual involved in anything to do with Faery, but especially with the spear suit. It particularly runs into that because it's also about hereditariness, the heredity, and also the fact that Uther Pendragon is a descendant of Cain, which was the son of the serpent, and he was the first murderer. So that follows through right from the beginning, that this is the first bloodshed ever among humans, and this is Uther Pendragon's primal ancestor. So there's a lot to unpack, you know, with all of these stories. There's a lot of videos I can make about all these different things. Like I really want to do a video about the 4 cities of the Tuatha de Danaan. And of course the spear has to do with Phineas, which is the shining hills in the south, in the fire, in the day, and you know. In fact, my hermit card, you know, he's standing between the green and burning trees, which are the gateway to Faery, and so if you look behind him you can see the shining hill of the city of Phineas. And you know, there's streams that run, and there's all this stuff that I initially discovered through folklore and folk music. I've always been kind of more of a folkloric sort of tarot reader and a folkloric sort of occult. My interests were sparked and have always had a kind of a folklore and folk ballad basis to them. So anyway, if you found this interesting, I hope you come back and like and share and subscribe. When I have this deck available and ready for print, I will start talking about that, and I'll have some links. I'll just put them under all my videos. But it sort of hasn't quite gotten there yet. So yeah. So take care, and I hope you come back, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I really appreciate you listening. Okay, bye-bye.